What's up, guys? I'm sWs. Welcome to Shootin with Shane. My guest today is a good friend of mine, a good brother, if you will. First time he's ever been on sWs. Very excited to have him. With me today, I have ACW professional wrestler, Denny Fuel, a.k.a. DaRoy Ivetta. Brother, how you doing, man?
Nice to be here, sir.
All right, man. Now, before we get into anything, I do want to do something really quick. Obviously, you know, we heard the tragic news, the passing of Wyndham Rotunda, a.k.a. The Fiend Bray Wyatt. So, I would like to just take 10 seconds, just in memory of Wyndham, if you don't mind, brother.
Not a problem at all.
And on that note, I just want to say cheers to Wyndham and his family. Well, brother, again, welcome to sWs, man. Awesome for you to stop by today. Very cool that we live in the same town now, so makes it a little easier now.
Yeah, definitely makes it a little easier.
So, look, man, I want to go ahead and jump right into this. Let's get into the first one. Earliest memory of professional wrestling.
So, like, I have this... I can't tell you the match, but I'm pretty sure it was a Dean Malenko match. And I was sitting in the living room, and I got so enthralled with it that I picked up a Polaroid camera, and I took a picture of the TV.
Okay.
And, like, that's, like, the memory that sticks in my brain.
So you're talking Polaroid camera, you take the shot, and the picture comes right out, you shake it off, you got your picture. Yeah. What was it, a picture of the match or just a picture of Dean coming out? Or
it was a picture of the match. I can see Dean Malenko in the picture, but because of the glare you can't see who the other wrestler is. Okay. He's got him in the clover leaf.
So was it kind of one of those things you're sitting in the living room like you said as a kid?
Yeah.
How old do you think you might have been sitting there?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay, so we're going back some years then.
Yeah.
Because you're a young cat, you know what I mean?
I'm young, but I'm older than I look.
Hey, brother, you and me both. You know what I mean? I'm 40 years old, but man, I'm young at heart, so I totally understand that. But so Dean Malenko was one of the first.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because I think honestly that you're the first person. I would have to probably go back and watch every episode of sWs, but I am pretty sure, almost 100%, that you're the first person to ever mention Dean Malenko, or as Jericho would call him, Stinko Malenko, on sWs.
Well, regardless of what the man of 1,001 holds feels on the situation.
Armbar.
Dean Malenko is probably, like, my favorite, like, 90s worker.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to ask, was Dean, like, up on that list for you, like, growing up as a kid and stuff?
It was always the cruiserweights for me.
Well, and it was really cool back at that time, because we're talking WCW, right? Okay. So we're talking WCW. Dean Malenko, obviously a 4 Horsemen.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me knows that, to me, there's only 2 groups of 4 Horsemen to me. I don't need to mention those because I've mentioned them enough, I feel like, on here. I'm going to start sounding like a broken record. But let's, on the topic of Dean Malenko, as a Horseman, who were your Horsemen? Who were the 4 guys that when you looked at the Horsemen, you're like, those are my Horsemen?
Flair.
Obviously, yeah, Flair. I was going to say Flair.
Flair, Arn, Malenko, and Benoit.
Benoit, okay. I was going to say, okay. See, now mine, again, I'm not going to mention all of them, but for me, it was take out Malenko and put in Pillman. Other than that, yeah, pretty much similar. Yeah, I would definitely say that Pillman, I thought Pillman played a great Horseman. He carried it over to his ECW days. Yeah. As far as being, showing up with the Horseman T-shirt, showing up with the cane with the horse on it. So yeah, definitely Dean Malenko. Great talent. Doing stuff. Behind the scenes for, I believe he's with AEW right now, and he's working with the young talent back there. So great memory to share as far as Dean Malenko. Gotta ask, man, besides that match, what's one match in your childhood that has stood out to you? Like the one that's just embedded in your brain.
Probably TLC from WrestleMania 17.
Okay, right on. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking triple threat
Yeah.
TLC. Okay.
Christian Edge.
This would have been the first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was like my brother's cousin got it, recorded it, and gave us the tape. And
you're talking VHS tapes.
Yeah.
I remember Go ahead. Yeah.
Like it illegal as it may be, like that's how it got to me, and like I watched it so much that the tape broke. The actual film tape inside of it broke. It
is like it's just so crazy that you talked about VHS tape because man, that it like back in the day, you know, I was involved with a group called the Click. I love you guys, Ryan, David, and Travis, two sweet fellas. We would either all meet up at each other's houses and watch the pay-per-views, but sometimes if some of us couldn't make the said pay-per-view at someone's house, we would always go to school that Monday, and, you know, Ryan or David or Travis would always have the VHS tape, you know, and they would hand it to the one that couldn't make it, and I remember getting tapes.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to get home to watch it, you know, and just pop it in. I didn't care about homework, snacks after school, nothing. I want to go straight in my bedroom, pop that VCR on, hit power, throw the tape in, watch the pay-per-view. My favorite one ever, and this, I don't know why this memory's burned in my head, but it is. Ryan actually handed me the 1995 Royal Rumble VHS that he had recorded at his grandma's house during the pay-per-view, and I could not wait to get it and see it, and I didn't want to know anything, and to see Sean go in as one and win the whole thing, man. Skin the cat, 1 foot, knock the Bulldog out off, you know, the second rope. Bulldog thought he won, Sean won it. That is one of the coolest memories. So, man, I think it's really cool that you brought up the VHS tapes. We obviously don't have to have that anymore because we have the network, and, you know, we can pretty much search anything. Yeah. Speaking of the network, man, how has wrestling changed for you as far as, I mean, obviously with the VHS tapes to the network, but how has wrestling changed for you growing up watching it the way you did to watching it now?
Oh, like, it's so much. Like, I'm 33 years old, but like I was raised like I was in the 80s. My dad was 40 when he had me, and like so I remember Saturday morning and Sunday morning wrestling, and like until SmackDown went to UPN here, Channel 23.
Yep.
Until
local
that
station.
Yeah, until that happened, after I moved out of town and moved out to the sticks, I had antennas, so I didn't have no wrestling anymore. So SmackDown was my number one go-to for wrestling, and then when the internet came along, that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
I'm the YouTube generation.
Yeah.
And, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I went from watching WCW in the early 90s to out in the sticks and then not being able to watch wrestling to watching SmackDown to now I can watch any match anywhere in the world. It blows my mind.
See, like a lot of people say that the internet kind of screwed up pro wrestling. I can see that too, like as far as like the dirt sheets and stuff goes. But as far as the internet with pro wrestling, I think the internet with pro wrestling was the greatest thing that ever happened because, like you said, it gives us a chance to go back and watch any match in any country on any event at any time just by clicking a couple buttons.
Yeah. And like I can especially understand that from like a strictly a fan standpoint that sometimes the internet ruins wrestling.
Yeah.
Because like even just the amount of matches that are out there, because like you get iconic from having matches against one guy, like say with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
Fight forever right there.
Like, and like, but like nobody would know who they are if it wasn't for the internet. Like the way they got into it was like PWG was the internet. That's how America got introduced to them. Like Canada had them, and Canada loved them as independent wrestlers, and Ring of Honor had them.
I was gonna say
for a while
Ring
too.
of Honor, yeah.
But like
Angelico.
Yeah, but like PWG, freaking.
Oh man, I fucked that up, didn't I? Dang. Generico. and Kevin Steen.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, okay. So you bring up Owens, like, okay, remember when it was kill Steen kill? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then it became Fight Owens Fight.
And then it became Fight Forever.
Yeah.
I mean, and then to me, like, I still call them, I mean, even them as a tag team now, to me, they're Fight Forever. I mean, those two guys are bound to fight forever. Like, it's just, they were putting on matches at PWG and Ring of Honor. I mean, their Ring of Honor stuff. You know, and then even, you know, okay, so we'll even go back. So I remember I had just met my wife, and we were laying in bed, and we were watching an NXT event. I want to say it was maybe like Revolution. Sammy had just won the world's title, the NXT world title. Owens came out, congratulated him. They're walking up the ramp. He grabs him, slams him into the entranceway, gives him what became the classic pop-up powerbomb on the apron, and turned heel. And it was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? But then again, I guess we should have seen that coming from Kevin Owens. I mean, come on. Like, you know, and again, I think that's what makes them fight forever. I want to segue in a little bit off of Owens and Sammy. I want to get into a little bit of your characters because when I first got introduced to AECW All-American Championship Wrestling, my first night in the crowd, not only was I blown away with great talent, I've always said that AECW, you know, guys like Marcus Fine, Chris and Tony Gonzalez from Gonzo Sports Room, shout out to those guys, too sweet. Amazing. AECW has a roster, amazing talent. I got to witness one of your first matches because I believe, if I remember right, like I said, I'm a little old, but I remember you were actually reffing a couple matches on that card. And then I believe you wrestled that same night and you were under Danny Zero.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the character of Danny Zero. The all white, the mask, the blood splatter. Let's get into Danny Zero. How did the character of Danny Zero come about, man?
Danny Zero is from my my dumb days, as some would call. So now that I'm an in-ring competitor, but my hardcore backyard wrestling days.
Okay.
Is where Danny Zero comes from.
Okay. So you did the hardcore backyard wrestling too?
Yeah. Yeah. I took it a little far sometimes. Got the scars to prove it.
You and me both, brother.
I used to. So like I was a video gamer and I got the Backyard Wrestling 2 video game.
Too sweet on that. Not a lot of people remember that game, man. I had the game too. Yes.
And they had to create a character, and you could put blood splatter on white pants in that video game, and my character was like this punk rocker, spiky hair with a Jason mask covered in blood splatter, pants blood splatter, shoes white with blood splatter. Yeah.
That's really cool, man, that you had the game, and that's where Danny Zero came from. Because, yeah, I remember you walking through the curtain, and I was like, well, that's badass. Because, I'm a huge horror guy. You know, I love horror films. Always have, since I was a little kid. My sisters got me into that stuff. But, yeah, man, I remember seeing you, and now we're talking back at the old AACW arena.
The Alliance event.
That was, wow. That arena.
That's true bingo hall wrestling.
Wow. Look at that.
It was literally a bingo
Look at
hall.
that, man. I mean, that was, that was the fans bring the weapons stuff. That was, that was a venue. Damn, man. I mean, that is just crazy strong, dude. That was a venue that was blood, guts, and glory at its finest right there. Yeah,
that's startup independent wrestling at its, in my opinion, at its finest.
Let's actually talk about that venue. How many good memories, man, did you have of that venue?
Every one of them.
I was gonna say every time that I was there, I mean, it was each card, each month, it seemed like it got better and better and better.
Even when I got into some heated arguments, shout out Buddy Botkins. I'm sorry, Brody, I love you.
Yeah, the venue was like I said, man. The best way, because I've been asked that, a few times by fans or by people, to describe what that venue was. I actually just drove by it with the wife and the two kids here a couple days ago. We was going to get pizza, and wow, I mean, seeing the venue, it was just blood, guts, and glory, man. I mean, that's what it was. That venue was just.
You know what that place was when I was growing up? It was the Women's Crisis Center in Bingo Hall.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so like it
Little
was
history lesson then for
literally
SWS
a
today.
Bingo Hall wrestling situation, and now it's an arcade.
Yeah.
There's an arcade.
Yeah.
in
Scan
there.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
comic shop and stuff.
They're pretty awesome too. Like
I was gonna say, I've been there. I've bought some comics. I've bought some toys. Shout out to you guys, by the way, for the sweet Ghostbuster collection that I have. But yeah, man. Going back to, I can't recall who you wrestled that night. But how? Let me ask you this, because again, you did officiate some matches that night. How is it officiating compared to being an in-ring competitor?
Um,
Because I feel like a lot of people don't understand like the stress on an official. You know what I mean?
You've got to. Sometimes things will get a little caught up, and you've got to be able to try to talk them. Try to get yourself through like what they're trying to do, because you're sitting there trying to organize chaos.
Yeah.
And it's a stressful situation because you don't know what them guys are going to do half the time.
Yep.
And you're putting yourself at risk even though you're not at risk. Like it's a weird dichotomy to be a ref. And to be honest with you, it taught me the most about in-ring wrestling as far as like mechanics.
Okay.
Because I got to watch these guys perform and fight each other, and I got to see people that I got to watch a match this far away.
Yeah.
Instead of 8-10 feet away.
Yeah.
And the experience from that is what's helped me the most as a wrestler, because it helps me understand flow.
Okay. I can totally understand that, yeah.
Now, being a wrestler, I appreciate my refs more being a wrestler than I did as a ref.
How long did you officiate there for?
About 6 months or so.
Now,
it was during the pandemic.
Okay.
So, I was fortunate enough to be able to do some closed training, and everything. Boss will attest to this one. There were times I was literally the only one there, and me and another guy trying to set up a whole ring by ourselves. So, like...
Yeah, because, the night that I was referring to, my first night there at AACW, again, I was just invited by Damien DeVille to come in and sit in the crowd with the family and, watch. I believe, if I go back and look, I want to say you officiated 3 matches that night. I don't think there was a lot of officials that night.
I don't think there were...
Because I feel like you officiated 3 matches, and then I believe... that was the night that you came out with Danny Zero.
I only refed 1 when I made my debut. My debut was against Chad Cross.
Okay.
Gauntlet match.
Okay, yeah.
In which I lost in spectacular fashion, but I made up for it later. I folded a cookie sheet over his head like a napkin.
So Chad Cross was your debut then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was trying to go back and I was trying to think who you debuted against that night or whatever. So it was Chad Cross. Okay.
I lost in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember you coming out, you had the blood splatter. I thought, like, to me, like, again, going back to being a horror fan, I thought the gimmick was cool. I was definitely a fan. I actually have a sign. I still have it. And after this episode, if I can search my son's filthy room, if I can find it, and if I can't find it, I'll find it and send you a photo of it. But I actually have a fan-made sign with a skull and crossbones with blood splatter, and it says, "You're not the real Danny Zero." And a few guys had signed it and stuff like that. But I thought that was really cool that I just randomly picked up a sign and...
Yeah, that's somebody who knew my past a little bit on my backyard stuff.
Mhm.
And they knew what I was capable of as far as delivering out punishment as well as taking it.
Okay.
And so that's why they felt that way.
Yeah. Okay. So now I know the story about the sign that my son has. Okay. Let's segue into DaRoy, man.
Yeah.
So you go into this new year. Well, first, hang on. But before we do that, I want to bring this up. Do you remember a funny story for the fans? Do you remember hitting me up and saying, "Hey, brother, my mask won't quite stay on right. Is there anything you can do?" And I love making masks, and I love sewing. And you hit me up, and I remember after an event, you gave me your mask, and I took it home, and I had 30 plus days to get it back to you. And I literally made the deadline. But I got it all sewed up and got it to where it tied and everything.
Yep.
But I thought that was really cool, so thank you for letting me actually do that and everything. I thought it was really cool. But anyway, funny story for you fans. But yeah, let's go ahead and segue into DaRoy, Ivetta, man. So how did we go from Danny Zero to this?
As a bunch of AACW fans know, in November of 2021, I cut off all my hair after my mom had passed away.
And my condolences to that, too.
Appreciate that. When she was passing, there was a lot of conversations that were had, and I was asked to let go of a lot of anger and a lot of self-hatred by my mother. And Danny Zero came from a dark place, and in order to honor her, I felt like it was time to try to put that aside and reinvent myself in more than just one way. So DaRoy is a combination of my first and my middle name.
Okay.
And Ivetta was the last name of my mother in a reenactment group that we belonged to when I was a kid called the SCA, Society of Creative Anachronism.
Okay.
Basically recreate the Middle Ages. Like Renaissance fair stuff, but
Yeah.
like a little more period correct and sometimes not as open to outside visitors so much. They hold this huge event in Pennsylvania called Penzic.
Okay.
And so if you ever want to see what it's like, you can go watch it there. It's great. It's guys fighting in suits of armor with rattan staffs and swords and stuff. It's great. But that was her last name. Her name in that organization was Amicia Ivetta.
Okay.
And she was a herald. So she ran around making announcements, the hear ye stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I took her last name in honor of her and my first and my middle name. And that's how I've been able to start this new character and develop this new personality, and I think it fits me a whole lot better as a person. So that I don't have to go and be what I was, because what I was, Danny Zero as a gimmick was a bomb waiting to go off.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it was only a matter of time before things got too out of hand.
Mm. Well, I know you and I, before we started filming this episode, we were sitting on my back deck there, and we were sharing personal stories and stuff like that, and rib jokes that we were talking about and things like that. And man, I think it's really cool, to hear that story, about your mother, because another thing the fans might not know either, I'm not quite an asshole as everybody thinks I am, because I remember being at an ACW event, and you had told me that your mom was real sick.
Yeah.
And I remember you and I shared a moment. We hugged for a minute, and I thought it was really cool. There wasn't a lot of people that you were talking to at that moment, and then you kind of, found me, and we kind of talked for a few minutes, and I thought that was really cool, to be one of the people that you went to that night and talked to her, and the fact that you put your first and middle name together, and then to honor your mother like that. So on that note, I want to say and I'm just going to call her Mama Ivetta, if that's cool.
That's perfectly fine.
And I want to say cheers to your mother.
Appreciate you.
I think that's really cool, man. Your mom, man. Let's dig into this. Your mom watch wrestling and stuff with you, man? Like, was it a household thing?
Yeah. So like, there were issues in the home, but one thing we can always count on is everybody shut up for wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
yeah.
That was a rule with Dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wrestling, like, come on, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, if
we
there's
got 2 hours, like...
If we can watch wrestling, we're watching wrestling.
Mm.
And, like, I was diagnosed as ADHD, as a lot of people my age were. And there was a moment where my dad finally admitted that ADHD was real, and that was, I was jumping up and down, spinning in circles, and talking to my parents. And then my dad's like, what are you really doing? And I just looked at him and I said, watching TV. And it was wrestling that was on. He's like, you're watching wrestling while jumping around and spinning in circles. I'm like, yeah. Okay. But yeah, like, wrestling was the thing. My mom didn't really watch wrestling. She, when wrestling was on, she buried her face in a computer, played Minesweeper.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
You know?
Solitaire or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but she was always the one to... glue my cuts and heal me from wrestling and, like, get into fights with my brother and having my brother wrestle. Me and my brother broke 3 couches wrestling because I would ask him to powerbomb me.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I have to give it up for my parents for putting up with that. Like, and putting up with me jumping off our 8-foot deck.
Yeah.
And doing swantons off the roof. Like,
right, yeah.
I mean, I was dumb.
It was the backyard aspect of it, man. Because like I said, I mean, I did the whole backyard thing too. I got into the extreme thing. I worked for a company called EVW, Extremely Violent Wrestling. I held their championship twice. Once as a face, once as a heel. Went by a character named Shane Mitchells. It was basically an ode to Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the backyard thing, man, it was crazy, I mean,
might as well have called yourself Michael Shane.
Right, yeah, I mean,
you remember him?
We had the glass tubes, we had I remember one of the worst power bombs I ever took was from my buddy, Joe Tipton. At the time, Joe was way bigger than me. He probably outweighed me by like 150 pounds. We found this metal table, and I bet him, I don't know how much money I bet him, but I bet him some money, and I was like, I bet you can't throw me through, or put me through that table and look where it bends. It took 2 attempts. And man, it was one of the worst power bombs I think I ever took. I didn't know if it broke me or broke the table, you know what I mean? But, man, let's go ahead. I want to ask you, how long have you been with ACW now? Because they're the first company that you've worked for, right?
Yeah. So I started right before lockdown. and everything. I went to,
with the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah.
Then okay.
And I was there just like as a spectator / security, because I had went to train. I don't drink anymore, but I actually heard through a liquor store that their AACW was looking to train new wrestlers, and I started going, and that's how I started out. But like, yeah, it was, the way I started was really weird because it feels longer than what it really has been, because of us having been in lockdown. That lockdown feels like it was a whole year.
Yeah.
You know, like that you missed. And I actually got a lot of training during that time too. So, because I was fortunate enough to go ahead and get myself taken care of and all that. So, like, I was able to have like one-on-one on training for a little while.
Who trained you as far as like going into AACW? Like, who were like the main guy or the guys that, you know, taught you like the fundamentals and the basics and stuff like that?
The guys that started training me were Rick Vidal.
Okay.
The Dynamite, Justin Terrell. And Brody helped me out a few times. The guy that was there for me the most as far as like training partner and everything else though was our current AACW champion, Christian Cash.
Yeah.
I love you, brother. He lost his mother a few years back. And he really helped me through that whole situation.
It was something you guys could bond over because he'd been through it and was able to be like, you know, lend an open ear, shoulder.
He did more than that. Like, he made sure he was there. Whether, like, I wanted him to be there for me or not. Like, he would just be like, hey, I'm in town, I'm stopping by. Okay. Like, he didn't give me a choice.
And, like, you know.
And that was what I needed then.
And, like, speaking of, you know, Christian, man, great guy, man. You know, he's drank from my cup and stuff like that, ate from my plate. You know, that's a big deal for me. I invite you in my home, you know, then you're obviously family, you know what I mean? Christian has done nothing but I feel like he's upgraded the game for everybody. This guy is, there's not enough good things that I could say about Christian. You know what I mean? Well deserved being world champion. You know, I dubbed him as the savior of ACW, you know, a year ago. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's just because you could see somebody's ego starting to get a little
great guy though.
Big.
Yeah, maybe. And then here I am today. You know, like. But no, yeah, man. I just think it's cool, man. You know that Christian was one of those guys that was there for you, and I think that's really cool. You know, that he could kind of give you advice as far as, look, man, I've been there. You know, and I think in a world of darkness, in a world of turmoil, in a world of hate nowadays, I think it's great to be able to have somebody who has experienced something that can come along and give guidance and give inspiration and hope, and you know, to let you know that, like, hey, I've been through this situation and it's gonna be okay, and we're gonna get through this, you know, and I'm gonna make sure that you get through this. So yeah, I think it's really cool. But yeah, really cool. So like, I definitely did not know that that Brody and Christian and Rick and Justin, the prophet himself, if you will, were the guys that kind of helped guide you to get you where you're. So really, so the lockdown, you've been doing this now, what, 3 years, 4 years then?
Yeah, close to 4.
See, and I would have thought more of like 7. I don't know why I thought you were more like in the business than what you were for some reason. Like I really thought, I mean, if I had to put money on it, I would have been like, oh, he's probably like 6 years, you know.
It's just because of who's been there for me.
Yeah.
And who's been getting things into my head on how to do this.
Well, and then here recently, you know, Congos
I was getting ready to mention.
stepped in. You know,
I was gonna say, my current
nicest
trainer,
guy in the freaking world, right there, man.
Yeah. Go take his chop.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't taken the chop yet, or the power bomb like my good brother Ricky Guns has yet. But at the time I was injured, so I wasn't trying. You know, I wasn't.
That man tried to
yet.
touch my spine through my chest.
Yeah.
So.
But great guy, man. And I think that's great, man. You know that you're taking the time to travel. You know, and that's kind of what the business is about. You know, you got to put in the work that you want to receive. You know what I mean? And I know we were talking again out on my patio before, or my deck before we started filming this episode. You know, you're talking about, you know, you're making the long drives. You're getting there. You're doing these things.
Yeah.
That's the business. That's what you got to do.
Yep.
You know, like you're showing the heart, the passion, and you're living it. You know what I mean? And
I ain't gonna lie. My first training session at Congo's Academy was, I had been at work at 5 o'clock in the morning for a delivery truck and didn't get out of work until around 1 o'clock. And I tried to get a driver. I tried to get to sleep, but I couldn't. So I drove up there on like little to no sleep and being up all morning and everything, and drove back. And I ain't gonna lie, I complained about it, and I was like, this isn't gonna be safe. And I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna grab myself a couple C4s.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm gonna make this. And like, that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if you want to succeed in this and you want to get better and you want to progress, then you have to go get trained.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't, then you're putting everybody in that ring, including even the fans, at risk.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I mean, like, you can't go in there untrained, you know what I mean, and then expect a good outcome. You can't go in there, because, I mean, even bringing up the fans, yeah, like, what happens if you try to do a spot, you know what I mean, and a fan gets hurt, you know what I mean, because you don't know what you're doing or whatever. And, dude, I mean, much love and respect to you, Danny, for, you know, taking the time to travel, because, you know, you always hear the stories about everybody, you know, well, I'm piling in my vehicle, and I've got my gear, and I'm traveling, I'm hitting the road, and I'm going to go do this, you know, and the fact that you're living it and you're doing it, man, I think it's great, man, because it's like, you grew up watching Dean Malenko, you know, and now you're doing this, you know, and I think that's really cool, man. Mad respect on that. I got to ask, this is a question that I've been dying to ask you since we've sat down here now. What is your dream opponent for AACW? If there's one guy that you could face, like if you were retiring after this match, who would be the guy that would retire you?
Christian Cash.
Christian Cash? Yeah. World Championship on the line?
Fans bring the weapons, World Championship match against Christian Cash.
So you would want to bring back Fans Bring the Weapons?
And I want it in as big a venue as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of venue, man, so we have a deal, AACW. We have the Carver Community Center. Good Lord, that was a venue before. We have the Morning Star Church, man.
That is who shall not be named.
There you go. All right, so the new venue, to me, awesome setup.
The connection is amazing.
Yeah, I think the connection is amazing. Great environment. You walk through the door. What's your thoughts on the connection, man?
Perfect for independent wrestling.
That's what I think, too. I mean, plenty of room. Great setup.
The acoustics in that place are just...
hot.
Yeah.
Hot. Hot. Man, AACW packs them in there.
We need to get some... We need to grab some fans.
AACW packs them in there, man, and it gets a little warm in that building, I'm not going to lie. But, man, the owner seems really nice. You know, he's opened his doors for the company. I think it's great. I got to ask, too, because I know what it's like for me. I've actually had people ask me, hey, what's it like walking through that curtain, and you got to flip that switch, and you got to become this character. What's it like for you? You know, you're in the back with the boys, and then your music hits, and you go through Gorilla, and you walk through that curtain, and you know that you've got 5 to 7 to 10 minutes to entertain. What's your thought? What's Danny's thought process going from Gorilla through that curtain?
It's the freest thing I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a pretty keep to myself kind of guy.
I noticed that in the locker room. Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't love. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It's just
you're just in your own head, man.
But once I get out there, like, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my part to the best of my abilities out here, and I'm gonna walk back through this curtain, and then I get to live off that.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than hearing that crowd pop.
Yeah. Whether they're cheering you or booing you, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like right now, you know, like I'm a hill. You know what I mean? Go like you said, man. We have a job to do, and when that music goes off for me, and me and my buddies walk through that curtain, like you said, you're locked in. You flip that switch, you're out there between 5 to 7 to possibly 10 minutes. And you have a job to do. These people worked hard, man, to buy these tickets. You know, they want to be entertained. And I just had a coworker ask me the other day. They're like, "Hey, you do some wrestling stuff, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a manager." And they're like, "Well, what's it like when you're in the back and then you go out here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not exposing the business, but I'll tell you this: when you walk through that curtain, it's go time. Like, it's go time. You walk out and, you know, I mean, dude, people have, I don't know, I don't quite know if people, I have fans that love me, but then I have the people that hate me, you know what I mean? And, like, that's what you want, you know what I mean? Like, you want to go out there, you want to do your job, you want to put on a show for them, man. What's your favorite match you've done so far, man? Like, is there one match that you've done so far that, like, from bell to bell, you were just like, man, I love this. I'm so glad I was a part of this moment. And you could go sit back in the back and be like, all right, here I am. And you process your thoughts and you're like, man, I was really happy with that. Like, what's that one match for you?
I haven't had it as a wrestler yet, but but I have had it as a ref.
Yeah? What's the match?
That was Christian Cash versus Brody Bodkins.
Okay.
That was actually a match where I got hit with a steel chair by Brody.
Okay.
And that leading up to everything that happened later, like, that's the thing I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
Because that moment set in motion what I believe so far to be one of our greatest shows, and that's the Fans Bring the Weapons match.
I 100% agree.
And
that was as, not to cut you off, but that is as ECW feeling. I have been to thousands of shows.
Mm-hmm.
That show, when the fans are standing on their seats just to see what's happening, and they're chanting, "Holy shit," all cards are out the window.
A man was set on fire.
Greatest AACW match thus far, and I will always go on record and say that. I went on record and said it 100 times, and by God, I'll say it another 100 times. Prove me wrong. Tell me I'm lying. Fans Bring the Weapons was the best AACW match I've ever seen.
Second is
just
second
feeling.
Justin and Christian. That's the last.
Oh my God, the cage match.
Yeah, the cage match. The cage match is a damn close second.
Yeah. Well, and I think what made the cage match such a close second for me personally as a fan, because that's the thing. I'm not just managing the group. I'm not just in the back. Like, I'm watching as a fan. Like, I personally snuck out and I watched that cage match because I was gonna watch that cage match.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water.
Yep.
I had a certain individual. I will not name that certain individual, but that certain individual came up to me and he goes, brother, you gonna watch the match? I said, I'm not just gonna watch it. I'm gonna be out there. because I want to see it. I was so highly invested in that match that there was no way in hell that I wouldn't go get me some popcorn. I'm going to sit with my beautiful hot ass wife and sit there and watch this damn cage match.
I was sitting. There was a group of us guys from the back that came around and sat out there, and
you guys were actually sitting right across from me.
And I ain't even gonna lie. They started talking to themselves, and I got annoyed by it and walked off so I could watch the match by myself.
I mean, dude. But I think that's what. But see, that's the thing too about pro wrestling. Like, you get so invested, you know, in a storyline. You get so invested in a match with 2 individuals or 4 individuals if it's a tag or whatever. But fans bring the weapons. To me personally, I think Brody Botkins, thus far to me, as a fan, greatest match he's ever had.
I helped carry that man out to his car that night.
I think that was the greatest match Christian's ever had. I think that was the greatest match that Justin Terrell's ever had. And that's just me. And now they may say they've had greater matches for themselves' opinion, sure. But me as a fan watching, I know what I saw because I was one of the fans that had to stand on my chair just so I could see the ring, because that was the most Philadelphia ECW shit I have ever seen for independent pro wrestling. And that is why guys like Marcus Fine and Chris Gonzalez and Tony Gonzalez say that the AACW crowd is the wildest crowd in Indiana independent wrestling right now.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
We get a little loud.
We get a little loud. We get a little crazy, man. I will definitely say that. But yeah, dude, no, I love AACW. I love the fact that the crowd, they're wild, man. You know, I mean, when you have other, you know, promotions talking about that kind of stuff too, you know, nothing against any other promotion, but there's just something. I've always said personally, like, I've talked to my wife about it. I've talked to a couple of good brothers about it. Something was created the night fans bring the weapons. Something special happened right there. And the fact that I can sit and say that I still have the footage of that stuff, and I was able to be one of those hundreds of people that stood on their chairs to see it, and be able to walk out of that arena that night knowing, like, man, that was fucking badass. And then to drive home with my wife and my kid knowing that, like, Christian used my broom. That was a Kenny Omega too, by the way. But no, I mean, like, Little Man still has the chair that was used. You know what I mean? No, something special happened that night. Because I was not yet a part of the company at that point. Something special happened just for me. That it felt so... I keep saying ECW. But it was. It was like... You know that iconic moment when all the fans were throwing the chairs in the ring? ECW? Yeah. That was it.
Fratarian
and Foley.
Cactus, yeah.
That was the moment for me. I felt like that was the moment of AECW where I feel like that almost maybe put them on the map.
I thought somebody was actually going to attack Brody that night.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the fans were just ridiculous that night. Dude, they were... Christian was set on fire. It was a wild ride, and that's the thing, you know.
People got turned away at the door for some of the stuff that they brought. Like, some of y'all people are ridiculous. Just saying.
I definitely think that night was definitely a start. I think that was the turning point, you know, because you always look back and you always say, okay, like, well, Shawn versus Taker won at Mania, my personal Mania match. Brett versus Shawn, you know, WrestleMania 12, Iron Man. Hogan versus Savage, you know, whatever. Everybody has their matches, you know, in the big leagues, you know what I mean? But when you look at these independent leagues, you know, you got to look at AECW, and that night, it wasn't just that match. The whole card was fire. But the main event, oh my God, dude. I mean, that was like, I think just my personal opinion, but that was the turning point of AECW, and I want to jump into this, leading into that, the evolution of AECW. What's your opinion on it?
Oh, I think it's been crazy.
Wild ride, right?
Yeah. I came in I think the company started in 2018 or 2019, something like that.
Roughly?
But I came in 2020, and the amount of growth that it's gone through, even we've had our ups and downs, there's been issues, but like we've grown to where there are some real things about to happen, and I don't think a whole lot of people like expected any of the stuff that's happening and is in the works right now for us. Like, they didn't expect things to go the way they did, and I ain't gonna lie, I wholeheartedly believe that the internet is what has helped fuel us so much.
For sure.
Especially with Gonzo's. Thank you guys.
Yeah, again, shout out to Gonzo's, man.
But like, the internet has changed independent wrestling to where local companies can really get a foot in.
Yeah.
And if they've got a good board of directors and that can draw things, and they've got a good locker room that's willing to get better and willing to put in the work and the effort, then things can really happen. It's not as hard as it was back in the days to start up.
Yeah.
The issue is to keep it going.
Yeah.
Like, back in the ECW days, early ECW days, like, it wasn't the getting going that's hard. It's keeping going. It's keeping fans interested. It's getting yourself into a position to where you can draw people one way or another, whether they want to see you win or they want to see you get your ass whooped.
Exactly.
So, like, which, that's what you're dealing with. A whole lot of people want to kick your ass.
I know.
But,
Ghost with the most, baby. The most controversial podcast wrestling host of all time. Thank you.
But, like, the way AACW has grown and the way that they've been able to do things and put shows together, and for all of us...
Phenomenal shows, too.
For all of us to have come together, like, and to exist in a somewhat cohesive unit, like, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Because everybody, we've been together long enough now that everybody kind of has a voice. So, like, everybody has, like, their job to do, and they're allowed to make their little tweaks within their job to be able to put themselves over one way or another.
For sure.
So, like, that's where I think AACW is different than a lot of other companies, too.
Yeah. Well, because, like, you know, going back to talking about the internet, you know, like, how some people say that the internet ruined pro wrestling. To piggyback off one of your comments, and I'll quote, you know, you feel like that the internet has helped independent professional wrestling companies. I definitely agree with that. Because it's given people an opportunity. Like, if you can't make, you know, an AACW show, for example, you can't make an NGW show or something like that, you can go to YouTube, you know, and you can watch your buddies, or you can watch a match that you want to watch or whatever. I think that's great. But yeah, man, when it comes to AACW, with the progression and the evolution of AACW, going back to that night, like I said, I think that the fans bring the weapons. That night, for me, as just a fan, because I wasn't even in the company yet. I was in talks with the company, but I was just a fan with my family, and watching that was, in my opinion, that was Shane Calcert. That was all the boys in the back. That was the banner of AACW, kicking the fucking door in, saying, we're here, and we're going to put our fucking stamp on this. And I think that AACW has done exactly that. The evolution of training, the evolution of sponsorships and things like that. Man, it's all come together, and I couldn't be more humbled and more proud to be a part of it all. And and I love walking, into that company and knowing that I've been gracious, enough to be given a spot there. I think it's great. I think AECW will be around for a very long time. They are not, and I'm not just saying this because I'm gonna kiss ass. No, fuck you if you think I'm kissing ass, motherfuckers. Yeah, I'll say what I want. It's my show. But no, just kidding. But no, like I definitely say this in all full confidence, man. All jokes aside, AACW, to me personally, is the best independent company running in Indiana right now. That's my personal opinion. Just for what has been given, the evolution of AACW. It is. I've got to watch it from what you were referring to as a bingo hall, because you said, like you said, it was, to where we were then, to where we went, to where we went again, to where we are now. And I just think it is, I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And, again, with guys like Gonzo's and all of them always coming in doing commentary and film footage and stuff like that. They've even said, guys like, again, Marcus Fine, much love, Marcus. AECW has the greatest pro wrestling crowd. Kokomo has the wildest crowd in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It is wild, man. Yeah. I mean, you never really know what you're gonna get, man, when you walk through that curtain. Like
it's a mess sometimes. Like I talked earlier about not knowing what the wrestlers are gonna do. You don't know what the fans are gonna do at an AECW show.
No, you really don't, man. You really don't.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there were people eating stuff off the floor at the last show because of some Cult X shenanigans.
Donuts, if you will.
Y'all do Krispy Kreme dirty.
I know, right? Yeah. Krispy Kreme dirt.
But like AACW, yeah, it's been said before, and our owner has said it before, our little wrestling bubble. Well, our little wrestling bubble gets pretty rowdy and gets pretty loud.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
And it makes noise. Mm-hmm. And like
star power.
We've come from all independent wrestlers to guys who have been in big companies. Mm-hmm. And that's been in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's not because it's not because we're shilling out money like PWG did.
Yeah.
PWG paid, the reason why they got the guys that they got was because they paid them a crap ton of money because of the mm-hmm. fans that they were going to had a crap ton of money. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's how they were able to get that. But we're getting that based on our fans, mm-hmm. our locker room, our management. Like, the management at AACW right now mm-hmm. is great.
Phenomenal.
Because they're doing everything that they can to advance the company. Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of, are you going to advance with us, or are you going to get left behind?
Right, exactly. And to piggyback off what you were saying too, I'm a huge fan of Ring of Honor. I've watched guys go through Ring of Honor and look at them now. You know what I mean? Don't need to mention names because we already know who they are. The first time that I stepped foot into an AECW arena, which was the Bingo Hall, I was like, wow, this is like a Ring of Honor show to me. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I felt. Like, you have, like, the talent on that show blew my mind. I was like, wow. I mean, I was blown away, man. Like, it just, again, nothing against any other wrestling company, nothing like that. Nothing against NGW or AWE or anything like that. I've been blessed to be able to work for a handful of companies and stuff like that, but home is home. You know what I mean? Home's where the heart is. My heart's with AACW. I'm always going to be with those guys. That's where I started my journey as far as coming back to pro wrestling. That's where I'll end it. You know what I mean? Having a blast doing what I'm doing. Thanks to guys, no names need to be mentioned, but thank you guys, for letting us do what we do, man, and the fans. What really can you say about the fans? I mean, thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, just incredible fans. Like I said, ACW fans are just the best damn fans in the world. I'm sorry. Like
the amount of noise you guys make for us and the amount of love that they show us,
Yeah.
like outside of even the shows, like I ain't gonna lie, I'm a nobody, and I've been asked, hey, aren't you that guy from AACW? Right. Yeah, I work for AACW.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, I'll also tell anybody who comes up to me, yeah, I'm a professional wrestler. I work for AACW.
Yeah.
Because it's always about promoting.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, you hope they're around for a long time. You are not the only one who hopes they're around for a long time.
I know, look at that, man. And dude, I think that's props too, man. You know what I mean? Like I think it's really cool, man.
A lot of people can say it's a dumb decision and everything else, but when I'm at the age where there's probably not a company out there that's gonna was willing to take a chance on me.
Exactly.
And AACW said, okay, you love wrestling this much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how much you love it. What are you willing to do for it? And what are you willing to put yourself through to be able to, like, get yourself to a point where you can actually do this?
Yeah.
And, like, I've said it 100 times. I've said it in group chats for our training and everything else. Showing up is half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
If you can show up, even if you feel like crap,
mm-hmm.
if you can show up to train or show up for the show, it matters.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And, like, you've got to put that time in.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, I'm here on the scale of things.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm slowly climbing up. And once I get to a point, then things will happen. Like, and all I'm trying to do in the meantime of my training to get to the points where I can make things happen is do the best I can and make some cool moments.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
you gotta have your moments, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta make memories,
win or lose out there, I'm gonna make that crowd pop one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, this last show, I did it in kind of a, I made the crowd pop, but that was a wardrobe malfunction. Lost my kilt.
Lost your kilt a little bit, yeah.
Running around in bicycle shorts in the ring, but I kept with it.
But that basically, like, that's part of it, you know what I mean? Wardrobe malfunctions happen, you know what I mean? But the fact that you're like, you know what, hey, I'm already in this motherfucker, like, it's gonna keep
At least
going.
it wasn't like Janet Jackson.
Hey, there you go. It wasn't no nip slip, you know what I mean? Brother, it's been a pleasure having you on, man. We'll start winding this down a little bit. I always offer the guest an opportunity at the end of the show, because like I said, I've always said it's not my next episode, it's my guest episode. So, brother, the camera is all yours. Anything you want to say to the fans, to the people, whatever, brother? It's on you, bro.
I just like to say that I love each and every one of you. I'm really happy everybody's been coming to our shows and supporting us. To all the other wrestlers out there, come to AACW. We'll work with you guys. We'll come to your shows. We'll help everybody out. Everybody promotes everybody. We can all make something of this. October 21st. There's a title that's going to be up for grabs. It's the EEC title. Eternal Excellence Championship. And, that title was created by the owner of the company for his father. And having lost both my parents at a young age, that significance holds a big factor to me. So, there's going to be a Royal Rumble on October 21st at the Connection. And I really, really want that title. And I'm going to put up a hell of a fight against the other 29 men or so. I believe it's going to be a 30-man rumble or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put up a hell of a fight against them, so they better be ready. Including a couple of friends of yours.
Just saying.
They better be ready for each other, too, and that, I mean...
Family is family. That's all we know. Family is family.
This is true. But yeah, it's going to be a hell of a show. October 21st, The Connection. Doors open at 6. Bell time's at 7. I really hope everybody can make it. And I hope you're ready to see somebody hit somebody.
And everybody love everybody.
Nah.
Brother, it's been a blast having you on, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, I'm sWs, Shootin with Shane. I've got my guest, Danny Fuel, a.k.a. DaRoy, Ivetta. It's been a blast, brother. That's just too sweet. And I'll skull my ass over here. And in one last tribute, I will say, when it comes to the Rumble, take my warning and run.